RichardRichard made his debut in WoW Comics number 15, published by Fawcett Publications during the Golden Age of comics, a period spanning the late 1930s to the early 1950s. This era was defined by the birth of superhero archetypes, but it also gave rise to a wide variety of genres: crime, horror, romance, and detective fiction. RichardRichard belonged to the latter, standing out as a youthful detective whose adventures were grounded in logic, deduction, and cleverness rather than superpowers. Fawcett was best known for Captain Marvel, later Shazam, but their anthology titles like WoW Comics featured a rotating cast of characters, each appealing to different reader interests. RichardRichard was one of the few who brought a cerebral edge to the lineup, offering readers a break from capes and cosmic battles. RichardRichard was portrayed as a teenage sleuth, sharp-witted, observant, and always one step ahead of the criminals he pursued. His name, while a bit redundant, added a quirky charm that matched his personality. Unlike many of his contemporaries who relied on fists or gadgets, Richard relied on his mind. Intelligence over strength. He solved mysteries using clues, logic, and intuition. Youthful relatability. As a teenager, he resonated with younger readers who saw themselves in his shoes. Moral clarity. He stood firmly on the side of justice, often exposing corruption or deceit in clever ways. His stories often involved classic detective tropes: hidden motives, secret codes, stolen jewels, and shadowy figures lurking in alleyways. But what made them engaging was Richard's ability to unravel these puzzles with calm confidence and a touch of humor. Richard's adventures typically unfolded in urban environments: gritty city streets, smoky offices, and dimly lit warehouses. These noir-inspired settings gave his stories a cinematic feel, echoing the detective films of the 1940s. The tone was suspenseful but never too dark, maintaining a balance that kept young readers intrigued without overwhelming them. The artwork, though simple by today's standards, captured the mood effectively. Panels were filled with expressive faces, dramatic shadows, and dynamic angles that emphasized tension and movement. Dialogue was snappy, often peppered with slang and clever retorts that reflected the era's speech patterns. Richard's stories were lighter and more playful than Dick Tracy's gritty crime tales, and less surreal than the Spirit's stylized adventures. He filled a niche for readers who enjoyed mystery solving without the violence or supernatural elements. The 1940s were a time of global upheaval: World War II, shifting social norms, and the rise of mass media. Comics served as both escapism and moral instruction. RichardRichard's stories reflected the values of the time. Patriotism. Though not overtly political, his commitment to justice aligned with wartime ideals. Youth empowerment. He showed that young people could be smart, capable, and heroic. Respect for law and order. His victories reinforced trust in institutions and moral behavior. While RichardRichard didn't become a cultural icon, he contributed to the broader tapestry of Golden Age storytelling. His presence in WoW Comics helped diversify the content and offered readers a different kind of hero, one who solved problems with brains, not brawn. RichardRichard's stories faded as superhero dominance grew in the 1950s and beyond. Fawcett eventually ceased publishing comics, and many of its characters were absorbed or forgotten. Yet, Richard's archetype lives on in modern media. Young detectives like Nancy Drew, Encyclopedia Brown, and even characters in Stranger Things echo his spirit. Mystery-driven storytelling remains popular in comics, TV, and games. Intellectual heroes, from Sherlock Holmes to Batman, continue to captivate audiences. In a way, RichardRichard was a precursor to the "smart kid saves the day" trope that's now a staple in children's and YA fiction. His stories remind us that heroism isn't just about strength, it's about curiosity, courage, and cleverness. The art in WoW Comics was typical of the era: bold lines, limited color palettes, and expressive character designs. RichardRichard was often drawn with a confident posture, sharp eyes, and a clean-cut look that emphasized his intelligence. Backgrounds were functional, serving the story without overwhelming it. Though not as visually iconic as superheroes, the simplicity of Richard's design made him accessible. Readers could imagine themselves in his shoes, solving mysteries in their own neighborhoods. Today, Golden Age comics are prized by collectors, and characters like RichardRichard have gained renewed interest among historians and enthusiasts. His appearances are rare, making them valuable for those who seek obscure gems from the past. Digital archives and fan communities have helped preserve his legacy, allowing new generations to explore his stories. While he may never headline a blockbuster film, Richard Richard remains a charming footnote in comic history, a reminder of the genre's diversity and creativity.